My name is Catherine Hale, and what I'm about to tell you is not a story meant to comfort anyone. It is the story that almost never made it to the light, a story that was buried beneath lies, threats, and silence. For years I thought I was losing my mind. I thought the whispers in the dark corners of my room were only echoes of my fears. But now I know better. I know the truth they tried to erase. It all began the night my mother vanished. That night remains etched in my mind like a scar that never healed. The wind howled through the cracks of our old house in Ashmere, and the rain fell in endless sheets. I was 16 then, still young enough to believe that monsters hid under beds and behind curtains. I didn't know that the real monsters wore human faces and walked in daylight. I remember waking to a strange hum, a sound that pulsed like a heartbeat through the walls. My mother was downstairs talking to someone in low tones. I crept to the staircase, and that was the last time I saw her. A man stood in the shadows, tall, his face hidden. My mother's voice trembled as she said my name, then a flash of light. Silence. And she was gone. The police called it a disappearance. They said she left on her own. But I knew better. She would never leave me. She was all I had, and I was all she had. From that night on, my life became a maze of unanswered questions. I kept hearing that hum in my head. It would come and go, sometimes soft, sometimes sharp enough to make me dizzy. Doctors said it was trauma. Psychologists said it was grief. But I knew that hum meant something. Years passed. I moved out of Ashmere, trying to rebuild, trying to forget. I went to college, studied journalism. Maybe it was my way of hunting for truth when no one else dared to look for it. Yet no matter how far I ran, Ashmere pulled me back like an invisible thread tightening around my throat. One evening, while researching an old file for an article, I came across something that stopped my breath. A name. Dr. Alaric Veer. He was listed as a consultant for several missing person cases, including my mother's. But that name had been scrubbed from official records years ago. It was like he had never existed, that I couldn't ignore it. I packed my bags and returned to Ashmere. The town looked the same, but something in the air felt wrong. Too quiet, too still. People who once knew me looked away, pretending not to recognize my face. Even the old newspaper archives had been altered. Pages were missing. Photos were torn. It was as if the town itself had decided to forget. That night, I went back to my childhood home. It was abandoned now, boarded up, but I forced the door open. Dust covered everything, but the scent of rain and old wood was the same. I walked through the halls, my flashlight trembling in my hand. When I reached my mother's room, I saw something carved into the wall, words faint but visible beneath the peeling paint. They hear through the hum. My pulse pounded. The hum. I had heard it for years. My mother knew that I stayed there until dawn, staring at that message. Then the hum returned, louder than ever. It filled the air, vibrating through the floorboards. I ran to the attic, following the sound. That was when I found the box. It was old, locked with a symbol I didn't recognize. I broke it open. Inside were photographs, grainy, black and white, showing groups of people standing around strange machines, wires running into the ground. My mother was in one of the photos, standing next to Dr. Veer. On the back of the photo, written in shaky handwriting, were the words Project Ecliptic. Control through frequency. I didn't understand, not at first. But then I found the tapes. Old cassettes labeled with dates from before my mother's disappearance. When I played the first one, her voice filled the room. She was whispering, afraid, explaining that she had uncovered something she wasn't supposed to. A government experiment. A network built beneath towns like ours, emitting frequencies that could influence human behavior. Make people forget, obey, or even disappear. The hum was part of it. The recordings were fragmented, but her last words froze my blood. If you hear the hum, they know you're listening. Run. I ran that night. I didn't even lock the door behind me. My car wouldn't start, so I ran through the empty streets until my legs gave out. When I reached the main road, a black SUV was parked under the streetlight. Two men stepped out, dressed in suits, their expressions blank. They called my name like they already knew I'd be there. I didn't wait to see what they wanted. I bolted into the woods. I stayed hidden until dawn, shaking and cold. When I returned, the house was gone. Not burned. Not destroyed. Gone. The land where it stood was nothing but a clean, empty field that I called the local police, but they acted like there had never been a house there. Even the maps had been updated. It was as if my past had been erased in a single night. My mother's name no longer existed in public records. Neither did mine. The only proof that I was real was the name on my ID, and even that started to glitch on digital systems. From then on, I was hunted. Everywhere I went, someone followed. Sometimes it was a man reading a newspaper in a cafe. Sometimes a car parked too long outside my apartment. The hum grew stronger, almost unbearable. I realized it wasn't just in my head. It came from everywhere, from the lights, from the air itself. I started keeping journals, documenting everything because I knew one day they might come for me too. Then came the night I met Dr. Veer, or what was left of him. I found him in a derelict hospital outside the city, a place long forgotten. He was older, gaunt, his eyes haunted. When I said my name, he flinched. "You shouldn't have come," he whispered. "They're still watching." He told me that Project Ecliptic had never been shut down. It had only evolved. What started as an experiment in mind control through sound had turned into something far greater. A method to erase people entirely, not just from memory but from reality itself. They called it reversion. Once a subject was marked by the frequency, reality itself would adjust to remove every trace of their existence. I didn't believe him until he handed me a file. It contained a photo of me, labeled Subject 23B, Partial Reversion. That's when I realized why people no longer remembered me, why even digital systems failed to recognize my data. I was being erased piece by piece. Dr. Veer said my mother had been the first to resist it. She had discovered how to block the signal using certain frequencies that disrupted their control. That's why they took her. That's why they needed to silence me. Before I could ask more, the lights flickered, and the hum became deafening. Dr. Veer shouted for me to run, and I did. When I looked back, the entire building was swallowed by a blinding light. When it cleared, there was nothing left. No building. No Dr. Veer. Only silence. I kept moving after that, never staying in one place for long. But wherever I went, strange things happened. People who spoke to me forgot my name minutes later. Digital photos of me blurred and distorted. I once tried to record my story, but the audio turned to static halfway through. I realized then that the only way to preserve the truth was to write it by hand on paper, where their technology couldn't reach. So here I am, writing the final account of who I am, of what they did, and of the truth they tried to erase. I am Catherine Hale, daughter of Eleanor Hale, victim of Project Ecliptic, survivor of reversion. I don't know how much longer I have before they find me again. The hum is louder now, so loud that sometimes it feels like it's inside my bones. If you are reading this, it means I've succeeded in sending it out before they silence me completely. Do not trust the quiet. Do not trust the hum. It is not just a sound. It is a doorway, a thread that pulls reality apart. And once it finds you, it will not let go. I know they will come for me soon. Maybe by the time you finish reading this, I'll already be gone. But if I disappear, remember my name. Say it out loud. Because as long as someone remembers, I am not completely erased. The truth still breathes through those who dare to speak it. And if someday you hear that hum in the distance, stop and listen. You might just hear my voice whispering back.